I have been keeping houseplants for years now, and I feel like I've spent a couple of those years overcomplicating my plant care. There are a lot of amazing tips and tricks out there on how to take care of your plants. However, it can be a bit overwhelming and confusing. So in today's video, I want to give you 7 easy, practical tips that will actually improve your houseplant collection. All of these come from my own experience and lots of trial and error. These are the things that I find keep my plant collection looking the way that it does. And if you have any additional tips on how to maintain a gorgeous plant collection, please drop those down in the comments below. Without further ado, let's get started. The first tip on my list is gonna be using clear vessels, whether they're plastic or glass. I love using this type of plastic, transparent nursery pot with drainage holes. The plant that I'm showing you currently is my Alocasia Platinum, and as you can see, she's pretty dang happy. And one of the reasons why she is happy is because clear nursery pots allow me to actually see what's going on beneath the surface. The benefit of using clear vessels is the fact that you can actually monitor your plant's roots. You can at any point see exactly what's going on, which is why I love clear vessels. Not only am I able to see the roots and whether they're healthy or not, as you can see in this example, these roots are extremely healthy, but I can also visually see if my plant needs water or not. And this has pretty much become my main way of telling if a plant needs water or not. I can just lift it out of its cover pot and instantly see whether the soil is dry or not. And speaking of, I do think this plant actually does need some water. I switched over to my Monstera Burle Marx Flame because another benefit of using clear transparent pots with plants like Monsteras or even Anthuriums is that you can just see the cool, chunky roots. Not only is this a sign that my plant is healthy, but it's just so satisfactory, especially considering I recently repotted this plant from a 12 centimeter pot into a 15 centimeter pot. And now that I'm seeing so many roots at the edge of the pot, I know that the transition was successful and that the plant is happy. Now, I will say transparent nursery pots are sort of a double-edged sword, and I feel like not a lot of people talk about this. Seeing the root situation at any given moment is both a blessing and a curse, because so often I would see a rotten root or something looking a little bit off in the soil, and I would feel the need to dig in there and investigate. Now, sometimes that's a good thing because you can actually catch early on root rot, or if you have some sort of pest that lies inside the soil. But oftentimes I feel like it's just unnecessary stress for the plant. Roots shed just like leaves do, so it is normal to have some amount of root rot inside your vessel. As long as there is a good amount of healthy roots and the rot isn't more than like 15%, I would say you are good. So something to keep in mind while using clear vessels is just to stay level-headed and not to panic at the sight of some root rot. Now, of course, if you can't see a single healthy root and the plant is declining, that's a sign for you to get in there and check out the situation. But otherwise, as long as the plant is growing well and you can see some healthy roots, there is absolutely no need to disrupt your plant. The majority of my plants that are potted in soil are in clear pots, and I just love them. So if you have never grown plants in clear vessels, I highly, highly recommend it. The next thing on my list is gonna be using a good, chunky aeroid mix. Now, this is a tip that you see all over the internet. Chunky Aroid Mix. Everybody swears by it. But the trick is to find a substrate that works for your environment and your watering habits. And the substrate that I found works beautifully for me is PlantScraper's Supreme Aroid Mix. This is not sponsored. I am not working with this brand. I just love their products. And I have been using this soil for, I would say over a year now, and it has absolutely transformed my plant collection. The majority of my plants are in this substrate, and I love it. And my plants love it. Something that I don't like about this substrate is the cost. It is not cheap. This thing is expensive. However, for the convenience and for the fact that I'm seeing such amazing growth with this product, I do not mind paying the premium price for it. However, that being said, you can absolutely create your own formula, mix your own substrates. That is absolutely a route you can go down. I used to mix my own soil for years before discovering first Soil Ninja and then finally my love. I prefer this mix way more than any Soil Ninja mix that I tried, but that's not because the Soil Ninja mix is necessarily bad, it just didn't work as well for my environment. And the reason why this soil works so great for my environment is because it's so chunky, it's so airy, and it has some additional tree fern fiber, which I feel like tree fern fiber has been such a hit in the last couple of years, especially with Anthurium growers. And in my opinion, the hype is worth it. It's expensive as hell, but I have seen some amazing growth using tree fern fiber, using tree fern fiber in substrates, and using this particular substrate. You don't have to use this particular substrate, but if you're in Europe, if you're looking for a substrate and money isn't an issue, I highly, highly recommend this one. And the great thing about that substrate in particular is that PlantScraper actually has written down a formula of how much percentage of each thing they use in their substrate. So theoretically, you could very easily replicate their soil, which I think is really great, and more companies should do that because I don't think we should be gatekeeping soil formulas or things that could make this hobby easier and better for everybody. And to give you another example of why I love this substrate so much, this is my Anthurium Ace of Spades Dressleri hybrid. I am so bad at remembering Anthurium hybrid names. Anyway, as you can see, this plant is rooting beautifully. Another plant that I transplanted or repotted quite recently, and it is already so rooty, and all of the roots look just divine. And that, my friends, is the power of a good chunky Aroid mix. Now, the next tip is gonna have to be fertilizer and feeding your plants. I don't want to promote a particular product in this section, but more so a mentality that I have when it comes to fertilizing my plants. I'm of the strong belief that you need to feed your plants often. Plants in pots need nutrients. I feel like a lot of people are underfeeding their plants. There's that whole notion of feeding your plants weekly. So giving your plants a week dose of fertilizer every single week. And I am kind of against that. I think you should be feeding your plants a lot more. I feed my plants every single watering, but with the highest dilution recommended. And I have seen some pretty amazing growth by doing exactly that. Now, the fertilizer that I am using, I have been using this fertilizer for years. I absolutely love it. It's affordable, it mixes well, it lasts quite a long time, is the Hessie Houseplant Elixir. Now, this fertilizer says that for fast-growing plants, you should use 3 to 5 milliliters per liter of water. And what I tend to do is use the full strength 5 milliliters every single watering. Caveat being that your plants need to actually be healthy and growing. Obviously, if you have a plant that's rehabbing or not doing that great, don't give it full strength fertilizer. I think that's kind of common sense at this point. But if you have a plant that is actively growing, for example, a Monstera, it needs a lot of food. And that's where frequent and high dose fertilization comes into play. And I feel like that's one of the biggest reasons why my collection is looking the way that it's looking and why I'm getting such beautiful, strong, gorgeous growth on honestly the majority of my plants. When it comes to actual fertilizers and which products you should use, there are a lot of recommendations out there. And in my opinion, they all kind of work the same. There are marginal differences, and the more expensive options aren't necessarily the better options. I'm gonna throw shade towards Foliage Focus for a second here because I used to use that fertilizer in the past. It's a very expensive fertilizer, and I have literally seen no concrete evidence that that fertilizer is better than this one, which is like half the price or even something that I can get at the garden centers. So I would be cautious about falling for marketing. Now, of course, if you're using that fertilizer and it works for you, great. Please continue using it. But that's my point. I don't want to tell you, go out and buy this and that fertilizer. I want you to experiment. I want you to try multiple things and see what works for you and your plants. And also what works for your budget. I feel like a lot of people don't really mention the cost of this hobby. It's an expensive freaking hobby. And I don't want you guys to be spending your hard-earned money on things that really aren't necessary in this hobby. So if you have a cheap old garden center fertilizer that works for you, by all means, continue using it and don't feel the pressure to use what the other cool plant influencers out there are doing. I definitely encourage trying new things, but don't expect a fertilizer to fix all of your issues. Ultimately, what your plants need the most is water and light. Food is just one of those additional things that will help your plants grow lush and beautiful. And personally, I would always recommend feeding your plants just a little bit more and seeing if you will get some better results. I have personally never experienced fertilizer burn, but obviously be cautious. If you do see any signs of stress or damage on your plants, do pull back. But that's just kind of the nature of this hobby. It's a lot of trial and error. And for me, this fertilizer and using it on a weekly basis at the highest dosage has proven to be no issue at all. If my plants are dormant, for example, during the winter, then I will switch to a lower dose, but honestly, sometimes I don't even do that. Sometimes I just go full ham and my plants are doing great. So feed your plants. Please, for the love of God, feed your plants. And do let me know if you would like to see a full watering routine and what other products I use alongside my fertilizer to make sure my plants are thriving. For the next point, I'm gonna be using another example plant, and this time it's gonna be my Calathea ornata. And the tip that I have for everybody out there is to use semi-hydro. Honestly, semi-hydro, Pon in particular for me, has transformed my plant game. I mean, look at this. I am actually able to grow a healthy, beautiful, mature Calathea. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? There is not a crispy bit in sight. And that is because of semi-hydro. Because semi-hydro allows me to keep my plants consistently moist. And that is something that I have learned throughout the years. Plants love consistency. Whether that be environmental consistency, watering consistency, temperature consistency, plants love when things stay the same. And semi-hydro allows me to have a reliable way of staying on top with my watering. My favorite type of pot to use for my semi-hydro systems are Elho pots. They come as these inserts in a variety of sizes, and I love them because they have a multitude of different fun colored cover pots. I hate black, white, or just like plain boring cover pots, and I feel like the majority of self-watering pots are either black or white, and yeah, I have some of those as well. They're fine, but I absolutely love the cover pot selection that Elho has to offer. They're great quality and my plants love them. I have had this plant in semi-hydro for, I would say well over a year now, and it has grown beautifully. It continues throwing out amazing leaves. I mean, look at that. Look at how beautiful that is. I was never able to get such gorgeous growth on any calathea using soil. But the moment that I switched some of my more finicky plants into semi-hydro, I have been having such amazing success with it. And you can also see how beautiful those roots look. They are so healthy, so white, and I can assure you that this thing is full of healthy roots. Repotting semi-hydro plants is literally one of the most satisfactory things ever, because once you unpot it and you see just a jungle of beautiful roots, there is nothing that compares to it. Semi-hydro has definitely transformed the way that I take care of my plants. Now I will say I've tested out a lot of different plants in semi-hydro, and it doesn't work great for all of my plants. I still have a lot of plants that I prefer growing in soil, like philodendrons, anthuriums, Hoyas, but for plants like calatheas or Marantas, semi-hydro is definitely a game changer. I mean, just look at my Maranta silver band. I would not be able to grow this beautiful of a silver band in soil. I personally use Lechuza Pon because I do live in Europe, so it's extremely accessible and affordable to me, but I know a lot of you guys in the States or Canada don't have access to it that easily. So what you can do is either DIY your own, find an alternative, or try using LECA. I don't have any experience using LECA, so I can't really go into that, but there are a lot of amazing growers who grow in LECA that have beautiful, healthy, stunning plants, so I'm sure it's not that different to Pon, but I just use Lechuza for the convenience factor. However, I know that Plant Scraper actually has a mineral mix of their own, so maybe I'll give that one a try sometime in the future when I run out of Lechuza Pon, just to see if there is any difference. But yeah, semi-hydro, chef's kiss. As we all know, light is one of those non-negotiable things that your plants need in order to thrive. So my next tip would be grow lights. Grow lights are amazing. Honestly, I would not be able to have this large of a collection without grow lights. In my apartment currently, I only have a north-facing window and a south-facing balcony door. So that's not a lot of window space and it's not a lot of natural light. So I am heavily relying on grow lights. And I love them. Grow lights are my friend and I couldn't live without them. Now, the grow lights that I am currently using on my Vitro shelf, I have the Barina T5 grow lights. They're the 3-foot version in the black shell color, in the white light color, and I love them. I've had them for some time now. They work great. My plants love them as well. My plants would prefer a little bit more light, but they do not mind the Barinas. They're still growing under them. I'm still getting some beautiful leaves, and I love the color temperature of the Barinas, and I just love how sleek they are. You can barely see them on the shelf, which is what I want. I want a seamless look in my plant collection. And another company that I would recommend is Growgang. I have both their Sierra and their, what's that other one called? Pianta grow bulb. Love them both. They're great. And I just think that grow lights are such a game changer. Now, I will say that there are a lot of grow lights on the market, and similar to fertilizers, some influencers love to talk about certain grow lights that I think are kind of garbage. And I love to be transparent and tell you guys the real tea and nothing but the real tea. So a company that I would say you should avoid like the plague is Mother. Their grow lights are not only extremely expensive, but most importantly, kind of pathetic. For that price, I expect my plants to grow humongous. Those grow lights provide very minimal light. I feel like you could only grow low light to maybe medium light plants under those grow lights, which again, for the price is absolutely criminal. So if you see those grow lights and if you're thinking to yourself, oh, those look cute, I should get them, please don't. Unless you have lots of money to burn and like you just want those grow lights. And if you have them and they work great for you, bless. I have 3 Plant Spectrum grow lights that are literally collecting dust right now because I just don't like them. Another grow light company that I used to use is Sansi, and I love Sansi grow lights. They're great, they're affordable, my plants grow well under them. I just don't like the color temperature of those grow lights, which is why I'm not using them currently, but Sansi is another great option. I have never tried out the Soltec grow lights, and I would love to try them out, but unfortunately I don't think they're shipping to Croatia, which is a little bit silly, but hey, maybe one day we're manifesting. But as of right now, I'm using the Barinas, I'm using the Growgings, and my plants are happy. But I definitely think that grow lights are a game changer in my collection. So if you're living in a dark apartment, get yourself some grow lights and watch your plants thrive. Now, the next tip is something that I am kind of struggling with, and that is leaving my plants the heck alone. We all have a tendency to play with our plants, to touch them, to repot them, to water them, and sometimes all of those acts of love can be a little bit too suffocating. And I have learned that sometimes I just need to take a step back, okay? I need to let my plants breathe and do their own thing. It's hard. I know, it's very, very difficult, and the benefit of leaving your plants for a couple of days or not really looking at them is that you get to appreciate them a lot more. The most happy and satisfied I feel with my collection is when I go on vacation, when I don't see my plants for 2 weeks, and then coming back home to my plants feels literally like Christmas. I feel like a child. I get so happy and amped up and excited to see all the new growth, all the new leaves, all the things that could have happened in my absence. And that's a similar effect that you could get when you just take a step back and don't look at your plants every single day. You will just be more satisfied and excited about your plant collection, and you will be less likely to actually feel burnt out by your collection. I still try to have a couple of times a week where I do check upon my plants, see whether somebody needs watering, see if there's any pests, or see if somebody needs a desperate repot. But other than that, I just try to chill and let them be. And especially with repots, I used to be a chronic repotter where I would just like repot my plants constantly repotting them and just causing a lot of unnecessary stress. And nowadays, I'm trying to be a little bit more chill. Like, not everything needs to be constantly repotted. There are plants that prefer that, like anthuriums. But for example, my Hoyas, I can just leave them. I don't need to constantly be fussing with them and constantly repotting them. And as a result, I have seen some really amazing growth. So I know this one's tough, y'all, but just try to give your plants some space. Similar to how us humans need space, so do our plants. Something that drives me absolutely insane in this community, especially if you're a plant beginner parent, you get told so many times that you should let your plants dry out between waterings. And I think that's bogus. I think letting your plants dry out between your waterings is a recipe for disaster. Now, of course, this depends on the types of plants you're growing. If you're growing cacti, this doesn't apply to you. You should definitely let those dry out. But me personally, and I feel like a lot of you guys as well, grow aroids. We grow epiphytic plants. We don't grow plants that like completely drying out. Now, it happens, of course. Life gets busy, things get out of control, but on the whole, you should not let your plants dry out completely. They should not be drooping over before you water them, okay? That's a big, big no-no. That is a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for dry rot, and you're not gonna be happy. So, my philosophy is that our plants do not like drying out, at least not completely. Obviously, you don't want them sitting in a wet pile of mud. That's not good either. But you don't want them to be dry. Dry soil is often hydrophobic. I almost said homophobic. Honestly, dry soil is homophobic. Hot take. And it's hard to rehydrate. And by the time you actually water your dry plants, the chance of the roots rotting are a lot higher. I try so hard to stay on top of my watering to make sure that my plants aren't drooping over or bone dry. And this goes even for succulent plants. I'm a big Hoya head. I love Hoyas. And I hate when people say that you should let your Hoyas dry out. Absolutely not. Yes, they have thicker leaves where they can store water, but their roots are extremely thin and extremely sensitive. And if those roots are dry for even a couple of days, they will disintegrate. So please, for the love of God, if you take anything away from this video, is that your plants love moisture. And if you want to have beautiful, healthy plants, you need to keep them moist consistently. Not wet, not dry, just that perfect balance of moisture. It's not easy. It's gonna take a lot of trial and error to figure out what your plants like, but once you get there, your plants will thank you, you will thank yourself because you will make your life easier, and you will have plants that are thriving. Anyway, I yapped on for way too long, so do let me know if you have any additional tips and whether you agree with mine or not. And as a reminder, it is absolutely okay to disagree with me. We don't have to agree on everything, and obviously this is just my own experience, and if something works for you, great. If something doesn't work for you, leave it. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. All those things help the YouTube algorithm recommend this channel to more awesome people like you. I hope you have a super amazing, gorgeous day, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye!